Audio on. All right. Hey, everyone. Hope you had a good Mother's Day weekend. It is May 9th, 2 p.m. Eastern. Let me know where you're tuning in from. Nobody said a word. We're going to check in on the broader market. We're going to look at Bitcoin. We're going to look at some beat up altcoins. And then I'll look at a bunch of coins that you want to look at. For the most part, we'll be able to fly through altcoin analysis because we know the bounce is going to be dictated by Bitcoin once it finds a bottom. And these days, the bounce on Bitcoin is going to be dictated by the broader market, in my opinion, once it finds a temporary bottom as well. So talking a little bit about, I will talk a little bit about a shift that is going on with my trading style and how I trade the crypto space because of the strong, more recent relationship between the broader market and Bitcoin. Got a lot more viewers than normal to start things off here as things are dumping. People definitely more interested in what's going on. We got a new ebook as well. Let's do that first. So new ebook, free ebook, tips and tricks to avoid over trading. Posted the link in the chat. Check it out. 3 practical tips to help you stop overtrading, the reasons why so many traders suffer from overtrading, emotions, how it can impact your judgment. Probably a good time to be on this theme for ebooks, as I'm sure there's a lot of bulls trying to play bounces and bounces and bounces and just failing a whole bunch in this market environment. And not just specific to crypto, certainly stocks as well. So check out the ebook. All right, so let's start off with the Nasdaq because we know the Nasdaq is the major driving force. Recently, we have a bull move on last Thursday, FOMC reaction, and since then we've dumped 3 days in a row. We've broken to the low of the year, and the bears have complete control on a daily basis. Every morning, the bell rings. We're going to look at QQQ here, which is again the same thing, but an ETF rather than the futures chart. But pretty much each morning, we see a big drop from bears in control. Any bounces have just resulted in hourly lower highs. So we know that the bulls are not going anywhere if every time we bounce, we set an hourly lower high, which has been what we're doing. So essentially, we can make a simple statement and say that we won't have any confidence that the Nasdaq has found a temporary bottom until we see an hourly trend change confirmed to the bulls. And that's just step one, because even when that happens, we're going to zoom out and we're going to scout a daily lower high to be the result of this bounce. So it's going to take a lot of work for bulls to slowly regain trends if anything is going to change. You know bears are just waiting for the next daily lower high to make a bearish entry on both the broader market and in crypto. So one time frame at a time. Just like when we're playing bounces, we play the zoom out game where we watch for a 5-minute trend change. Okay, let's zoom out to the hourly. We need an hourly trend change. We zoom out to the 4-hour. We're doing that with QQQ on the hourly and the daily because we have very clear hourly and daily downtrends. So with the weakness we're seeing on the last few days, something was different this weekend with Bitcoin, where it continued to drop and see bear follow through while the broader market was closed. And before this past weekend, Bitcoin had a slightly bullish correlation to QQQ, where it was holding on better because Bitcoin was not at the low of the year and QQQ was. That changed this weekend as we are now accelerating to the downside. And obviously you can feel the fear is picking up all over the place. Again, not only in crypto, but in stocks as well. So how I used to trade cryptocurrency, 2017, 18, 19, 20, 21, I would be making trades based off of Bitcoin, Bitcoin's RSI levels, Bitcoin's volume, Bitcoin's price action trends. And then I would be applying that to altcoins as well. There is an extra factor now with the broader market. So it used to be the kind of scenario where I would look at an altcoin and say, okay, well, the altcoin's 4-hour RSI is 24. That's pretty beat up. And I would look at Bitcoin and say, Bitcoin's 4-hour RSI is 32. It's not oversold yet. That tells me that Bitcoin can see another leg down very easily because we're not 4-hour oversold. And if it does, that altcoin that is already oversold can see RSI levels then reach extremes. And so that would keep me a little bit more cautious on the altcoins. We're now doing the same thing between Bitcoin and the Nasdaq. because I can look at Bitcoin and say, wow, we are absolutely crushed. Daily RSI down in the mid 20s, 4-hour RSI is approaching the teens, 12-hour RSI is approaching the teens. So yes, absolutely, we are in some extreme RSI levels on a lot of time frames. But I look at the Nasdaq futures chart. Are we extreme here? Daily is not oversold. 4 hours getting there. 4 hours oversold. Okay. Hourly, not really oversold. So that for me doesn't mean I'm not trading any crypto bounces. But for me, it means, okay, well, the Nasdaq is beat up the last 3 days, but it can absolutely see another leg down tomorrow. And if it does, that can keep pressure on Bitcoin and keep its RSI levels extended. So again, that does not mean don't play any bounces. If you've been trying to play bounces and you keep losing, stop playing bounces. The market's not going to run away without you. You don't have to nail the bottom. If playing oversold bounces works for you as a strategy, then the one thing to burn into your brains is just protect yourself from the this time it's different scenario, the 1 in 5 years, the 1 in 10 years scenario. Because there are many times, and I'm guilty of this as well, whereas we get more experience as traders, where we get more comfortable saying, okay, well, I'll have a loose stop level, or I'll have a mental stop, or I'm comfortable with my ability to maneuver. I can sell a half position and then re-enter a half position. But we just have to be cautious when there is this much fear so that we don't stumble into a scenario where something unusual that has not happened in however many years happens, and we get hurt really, really badly from that. And an example is, just recently someone posted in our Slack chat room where it was a lesson from a trader who had been trading from 2000 to trading for decades. So they were maybe 13, 14 years into their full-time trading career, and obviously proving to themselves that they can do this and show returns and consistency. And they ran into a once-in-a-decade event. I forget which one it was specifically, but one of the volatility instruments, one of the leveraged ETFs, blew up and just stopped working. Forget which one that was. Either way, it was an anomaly situation, and they resulted in a $500,000 loss. And then it significantly impacted them psychologically, and they didn't know if they'd ever be able to recover and become a trader again. It shook that one trade after 13 years of consistency, shook them to the foundation of their core of who they were as a trader. So those anomaly events can happen. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm just saying we have to protect so that we get, a big loss if we're wrong in a certain scenario, but not a massive, I just lost 3 years of profits scenario. So use stop losses, even if you're really confident with yourself, because we can be in a scenario where, who knows, maybe the broader market dumps 10% and leveraged instruments blow up and there's margin calls and Sailor capital blah, 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 gets liquidated and MSTR collapses. Again, these are things that are very unlikely, but always a possibility. 0.001, whatever the percent chance is, we have to protect against this. So that is my precursor to now talking about potential bounce scenarios. Keeping in mind, we will not be bag holders on this drop. So let's look at some of these crypto stocks because they're getting massacred today. So MARA, big time drop down. Again, if we look at the low of the year and how much lower we are on these names than Bitcoin, the low of the year was 19. And so here we are, what's that, 35% lower than the low of the year, where Bitcoin is just hitting the low of the year today. So we're seeing a race to the exits. Look at MSTR. MSTR is absolutely dumping the last few days on very high volume. And MSTR is close to going back to where we came from before the Bitcoin, all-in Bitcoin strategy, essentially. So we're looking down at the lowest levels that we've seen in a year and a half. And again, it's just absolute bear control. And we don't have a bottom in the stock market, which is keeping us cautious. The biotech sector, completely unrelated to crypto, biotech sector the last 3 days has dropped 18%. There's a ton of fear out there. And we don't want to be selling in fear, but we can be extra cautious looking to play bounces. It all depends on who you are as a trader and your confidence levels. If you're talking long-term, no-touch, dollar cost averaging, then you welcome this environment with open arms. This is the time when you dollar cost average, when there's this amount of fear. So Bitcoin, we are in a monthly downtrend now. So Bitcoin is in a monthly, weekly, daily downtrend as far as I'm concerned. You can look at the weekly chart and say, well, we don't have a clear lower high and lower low, but obviously the price action is showing us the bears are in control of it on every time frame. And this monthly bounce is a bear flag that confirmed the retracement size was not significant enough to negate a potential bear flag. We are now looking down at 28.8 thousand support as a pretty critical level. If that level is lost, we're in an area where we didn't establish much support on the way up. So after 28.8, we're going to be looking back towards that previous all-time high resistance to now potentially act as support. So the bulls really want to hold 28.8. And if we look at things from, there's different time frames. If you want to feel better about things, pull up the 5-month chart. You say, well, what's the most likely scenario here? We're going to scout a 5-month high or low. But who knows when that's going to form or where that's going to form. There's a ton of space for it. The bottom line is the bears have absolute complete control and they're extremely confident. So on the weekly, we know bears will be scouting a weekly lower high next time we see any kind of significant bounce because there's a ton of space for it. We know on the daily, the bears will be scouting a daily lower high entry because there's a ton of space for it. We have not put in a bottom. We are oversold on the daily. I am watching our alert here on Trader Pro, our super stack on the daily, because over the last 2 years, we've seen that big picture, these have been pretty good in terms of tops and bottoms. And if we see another leg down closer towards 30,000, then we will potentially be firing off that signal again. So just something to keep an eye on. Super stacks on the daily time frame from the Trader Pro alert system. I definitely pay attention to those a lot more than many other time frames. How about the hourly? Can we get an hourly bounce going? We're just looking for an hourly lower high next bounce. Every bounce we've seen so far is rejecting from hourly EMA 12 and looking for a lower high. Because of our RSI levels, we are definitely looking for a short-term bounce. But again, it's what I just said with Bitcoin Bitcoin RSI levels are not in the void of just, this is all I need to focus on like it used to be. The Nasdaq can be red tomorrow. That's a possibility. And if it is, it can see Bitcoin be red tomorrow as well. If that were not a factor, and if you told me that it's back like the old days of Bitcoin, where that's all we need to be watching, I would be starting to scale in fairly aggressively for some oversold bounces here. But because of this broader market environment and the shifting correlations, I personally am still being cautious and patient. And I would rather have a level to play off of. Back in the day, I would scale in to a falling knife. I don't care if there's no level nearby, but not this time around. And again, that's just me choosing the conservative route. But obviously, a more aggressive trader is going to be looking to play this current weakness regardless. So what we have to see for a bottom to be set is, number one, the Nasdaq break the hourly lower highs. Number two, we need a big enough bounce on Bitcoin to create the space for an hourly trend change to try and form once we top out on that bounce. And again, there will be bears waiting for an hourly lower high. Less aggressive bears will be waiting for a 4-hour lower high. Less aggressive bears will be waiting for a daily lower high. Less aggressive bears will be waiting for a weekly lower high. So if you're looking bearish, determine how aggressive or conservative do you want to be. And same thing for the bulls. So it's only the most aggressive of the aggressive bulls looking to play a bounce here. We got a 15-minute downtrend as a guide. We have a double bottom at the moment. So the bulls need to hold 31,000 and break 31.9 to see any short-term shift and get an hourly bounce underway. But right now I'm just looking at the Nasdaq out of the corner of my eye and it just keeps setting 5-minute lower highs. So that obviously has to change if anything's going to change with Bitcoin, in my opinion. The dominance chart is green, but not massively green. So that's showing us that, yes, alts are dropping faster than Bitcoin, but not, pulled up the wrong list. Who is green 12%? It's the VIX showing volatility. So it's showing us that the alts are dropping faster than Bitcoin, but not by a huge amount. If this were a big green move, we'd say, all right, alts are dumping way harder than Bitcoin, but that is not the case here. And looking at the weekly tightening range, we are continuing to tighten up and we could see a break of the range that we've been in the last 3 months. We could see that range break in the near term. And again, the relationship we've been seeing recently, if it were to break bull, that would likely mean weakness in the crypto space, alt's weaker than Bitcoin, and it would be very notable. But not like we need that signal at this point. The price action of Bitcoin is giving us all the information we need as far as bears being in complete control and very confident. Ethereum has not broken the low of the year yet. 2159 is a key support level still, so we can say it's holding on a bit better than Bitcoin. It has not confirmed a monthly downtrend yet, though it is on the verge of doing so. Still a possibility to hold that support level. ETH BTC, this is very key. We just held the weekly support level with the double bottom. If this level breaks, we have a monthly head and shoulders potentially shaping up, because our monthly lower high would then be set. And we've been watching this one for months. Just got to be cautious, keep an eye on the potential. And if that level breaks, monthly lower high is set, and we have the possibility of confirming a monthly downtrend, which would obviously show us a lot of comparative weakness of Ethereum to Bitcoin. So obviously we're holding on a lot better than Bitcoin right now just because we're not at the low of the year. We're watching this chart very closely to see if Ethereum is going to catch up to Bitcoin on the downside. And if this chart confirms a monthly downtrend, Ethereum, which has been stronger than Bitcoin for a significant period of time, that will change. GMT, I did play an oversold bounce. This is my first crypto trade in a long time. So traded an oversold bounce over the weekend. 4-hour RSI was down in the teens, and I just saw enough of a setup where, all right, I'll take, I haven't taken a trade in forever. If I'm wrong, I'll eat a day loser. It's not like, again, I'm not beating my head against the wall trying to play bullish time and time again. It's my first attempt in over a month. So, all right, let's give it a go. And it worked out really well. I got a good entry. My first fill was 236, and then the bounce started, so I didn't even get any other fills. And then scaled out a bit in the 270s, a bit in the 250s, and then I stopped out the rest of the trade. I forget if I was in this trade last live stream, but I stopped out of this trade when this equilibrium broke bear. So then I was all out and back to all cash at this point. And I did make another attempt on Luna this morning first thing. I'm just catching you up on my personal trading. Made an attempt on Luna's 15-minute falling wedge. And as soon as I made that entry, realized I'm going to be distracted. I've got too much going on the morning. And so it just kept it a real small entry. And rather than trying to play this falling wedge with maneuvers of buy a support break, sell into that little bounce, buy a support break. Fortunately, I didn't do that because I'd be underwater right now. But ended up just with a small stop out. I think my entry was right around here and stopped out on the fresh low, something along those lines. So over the weekend, little win, little loss today. And again, just extremely patient, because what happens in this market environment is, you feel like I need to be doing something. I need to be playing bullish. I need to be playing bearish. But being cash is also massively beneficial in this kind of market environment as well. Because if we can look at Bitcoin and say, all right, well, what's Bitcoin down on the year? And it's a lot. And then we compare what would be break even on the year be, we're going to be outperforming Bitcoin by a very significant amount. So Bitcoin is down 34% on the year. So if I'm break even in my account, I am outperforming Bitcoin by 34%. And again, I don't need to nail the bottom. I just want to keep burning that home, where when there is a momentum shift and when there is a clear shift in the market environment and we have uptrends on the daily and weekly timeframes again, it's okay to be waiting for confirmation from bulls to be shifting our bias. And even if we don't nail the bottom, there will be gains to be had. So that's my mindset right now. I have been cash as far as the crypto space in my trading account for a very long time. And again, a lot of people talk about long-term no touch. And if you were truly long-term no touch, again, it's no touch. Keep it simple. Anything that has a stop level or something that you would exit is a swing trade. Anything that is long-term no touch, you will hold until zero. And my mindset with that position always goes back to a conversation I had a few years ago with my friend's grandfather, who was 80-something years old and has a very significant amount of money, huge property, horse farm worth double-digit millions, and has been in the market the entire time, and he has positions he has been in for 40-plus years. And so I think about how I trade and my trading style, and I think, wow, I will never, ever have that. I can't do that with my trading style. The only way I could possibly do that is by literally designating something as no touch, mentally saying that is $0 now, and we'll talk about it in a couple decades and make some decisions. So the only time I would ever sell a long-term no-touch position is in extreme euphoria. Then I would start to shave some off. But in extreme fear, absolutely not. That is the last time I'm going to think about selling a long-term no-touch. So again, as you are establishing your game plans as a trader and investor, you need to distinguish between these two things. Because there are people right now who are selling their long-term investments because they are reacting to their emotions in this environment. And so for me, it's a simple statement. Has it been over a decade? No, I'm not doing anything. The more we can write down a simple statement that we stick to, the less we react to our emotions. The key is sticking to that simple statement, of course. So let's look at these altcoins attempting some bounces. But again, they're going to be doing the same thing as Bitcoin, just slight variations. So some names are going to be holding on a little bit better, and some names are going to be weaker. And obviously the GMT BTC chart will tell us what is GMT doing in relation to Bitcoin. And the hourly chart, it's puttering around here the last 5 hours. So it's holding on fairly well the last 5 hours comparative to Bitcoin. But we have to see the Nasdaq find some kind of bottom or Bitcoin start to show us a clear bullish correlation to the Nasdaq. Neither is happening. Bitcoin is at its low right now. We can see another leg down. Again, we have to have that mantra in the back of our mind. We can always see another leg down. We have to prepare for that in whatever trades we are taking. And here we are testing the low. So we are not going to anticipate any altcoins getting any meaningful bounce going until we have a meaningful bounce going in Bitcoin. So looking at Luna, Luna is getting absolutely trashed. Again, RSI is out the window to a certain degree on a lot of these altcoins. And we just saw another big leg down. It's a falling knife in free fall. And we have to see the broader stock market and Bitcoin find a bottom if these altcoins are going to find a bottom. And Luna is getting ugly. So Luna, just like that, with that leg down there, is now a lead bear over the last 30 minutes. It has significantly shifted to become that lead bear. And there's a lot going on with Luna and UST and all that drama. I'm not closely following the fundamentals there. But again, these are just aspects of the current market environment and the leverage. I mean, for my entire trading career, the backdrop of everything that I do is I do not trust financial markets. I do not trust our government. I do not trust financial institutions. That goes to crypto as well. I don't trust these exchanges. I don't know what Coinbase is doing. I don't know what Binance is doing. I don't know about the leverage that's being taken on. I don't trust anything about markets. So for me, it's always in and out, quick cash, protective day trading. Give me my money. Thank you very much. That's why I have my long-term no touch, because to separate myself from that mindset. But again, I look at these market environments and I've seen leveraged ETFs blow up and stop working. And again, we just have to prepare for any kind of scenario. Can Bitcoin drop $10,000 from here over the next 2 weeks? It would be unlikely, but it's possible. I can't say it can't happen. So we have to protect ourselves from those unlikely scenarios. Every single time I get into the car, there is a fraction of a percentage chance that I will crash in that car that day. And I put my seatbelt on every single time, regardless of how low that percentage chance is, to protect against that percentage chance. So again, there are going to be people that try and play this bounce right now who are going to blow up their account. That's the other aspect of this market environment that we're in right now. Everybody who came into markets from the COVID dump is experiencing their first, what the is going on? And we experienced it in 2018 and 19 or whatever years it was. And we experienced it in the stock market in 2018 or whatever time period you want to point to significant maximum fear. But there's a whole new portion of this market that has never experienced that. And so they're going to get blown up. They're going to get crushed, and it's going to chew them up and spit them out of this market. And so if you're listening to this right now and you're in your first 2 years of trading, your goal is survive. That's it. Just survive. Just have capital that you can put to use after this learning experience. because this is a learning experience. This is the opposite, right now is the opposite of the maximum euphoria that we saw consistently. I mean, how many times did we see maximum euphoria over the last year and a half? There's been a steady stream of maximum euphoria. So now we're getting the maximum despair. And until we see the broader market bounce, we do not have any confidence in a Bitcoin bounce. All right. I'm now reading the chat room. What do you want to look at? The QQQ is testing the low of the day. Bitcoin is testing its low of the day. Just broke to a new low, not a lot of follow through. Again, the ratio chart, you can look at BTC USD divided by QQQ to show us who's stronger, who's weaker, what's the correlation. We have a bearish correlation with QQQ today. And look at how that has changed. We had a bullish correlation relative to the Nasdaq for the majority of April into the start of May. And the last 4 days, we have significantly weakened comparative to it. So if we're looking for a short-term bounce, we want to see this chart bouncing as well. I mean, we can use this the same exact way as we use alt BTC charts. So if I'm looking for a Luna bounce and Luna BTC is showing me some initial signs of strength, I can use that as a clue. BTC USD divided by QQQ, I'm looking for some initial signs of strength to show me that we may be looking for a temporary bottom. We're still in the clear 15-minute downtrend, so we're not seeing any sign of it. But we can use this chart just like we use the altcoin charts. Litecoin, LTC, BTC has been tightening up on the weekly. So still paying attention to it as long as this support holds. But if this double bottom breaks, it's right back to being a lead bear. We rejected from weekly EMA 12 resistance yet again. That now makes our fourth rejection in the last 4 months, 5 months. If we can't get over weekly EMA 12, if we cannot break the weekly lower highs, we are not going anywhere. And the bears will keep their complete control. Coin is in blue sky or black dirt breakdown. You literally cannot have a more bearish chart. There is no price history. We love blue sky breakout, right? That's the most fun time to be a trader. No price history. Price easily moves. Every single dip gets bought. We are in the exact opposite scenario. You cannot be more bearish. Every bounce is sold into. There is no price history. We're in discovery mode to the downside. And we're in free fall. It is a falling knife. RSI does not mean a thing when you are in black dirt breakdown with no price history. So coin is as bearish as you can possibly get. And look at the daily chart. We can bounce 20% and be looking for a daily lower high. Waves. So Waves stands out for sure. Daily trend change on Waves BTC. So not immune to the weakness. The best case scenario here for Waves would be that Waves BTC keeps going up when Bitcoin bounces. We have to confirm a daily trend change on the US dollar pairing by getting over 1698. But just the fact, I mean, this is the same point that I made where if you're cash, if you're break even on the year, you're up 34%. Waves trading sideways here and not hitting fresh lows is outpacing every other alt that I've looked at by a huge amount just because it's not dropping. It's not going up at all, but it's just not dropping. So definitely a lead short-term bull for that reason. Muting the repeated askers. Why don't I use the log scale? I look at it every now and again. If I'm looking visually at longer term charts, I'll put on the log scale. But I've been trading without the log scale for 11 years, and so that's what I stick to. That's what works for me. Black Dirt Breakdown, that's my term. Get that famous. No trademarks yet. You can trademark it if you want. So again, looking at Sol and Matic and all these things, first thing I want to do is look at the BTC pairing. Okay, we're holding up a bit better than Bitcoin over the last couple of hours, but still not doing anything. Need to confirm a 15-minute trend change for that to continue. So here we are testing the low, $65. We've already dropped to a weekly lower low. And again, it's just extremely weak. We are in a month, it's a monthly bear flag that confirmed. We're in a monthly, weekly, daily downtrend. And every single time frame is favoring bears. We've seen it before. We dropped 80 to 90% in 2018, and that was without a huge amount of broader market weakness. So just give yourself that perspective and say, okay, well, if this were like last time, what could we get down to? So if Sol is going to drop 85%, that would be down at $37. So that seems impossible that we can go to that level, but Bitcoin did that between 2018 and wherever we bottomed. So that's a good exercise, in my opinion, for how bad can it get? Well, this is what it did in the past. And again, it's just a very notable shift in market sentiment that will change eventually, but it will take a long time to change these trends back. I mean, look at how long it took Bitcoin to regain a monthly, weekly, daily uptrend. It took a year and a half plus. So we're flushing out a lot of new traders and investors, a lot of leverage being flushed out. And now it's just a question of when is the broader market going to bottom? How ugly is the Nasdaq and the S&P 500 going to get? And in my opinion, that's going to dictate when the cryptocurrency space bottoms. Bitcoin 28.8 is the level from here, absolutely. What am I looking for to make bullish entries? Honestly, I don't think I'm going to try and catch the falling knife this time around. The risk is not worth the reward for me. So if we see a big hourly bounce, so if Bitcoin sees a big time hourly bounce, if we bounce up to 32.5, then I can say, okay, well, next hourly consolidation, we got a lot of space to work with, and I have a clear stop level to be going off of. So that's something that I personally would consider as far as trading. But I'm not going to scale in to catch falling knives in this environment because the broader market, it's really the broader market that is changing things for me. It's changing how I'm going to trade the crypto space. I don't know if that'll be the right decision or not. Maybe I miss massive bounces and miss big gains, but I just don't have any confidence in crypto bounces with the weakness we're seeing in the broader market, and we're not at historical RSI levels or extremes in the broader market. So that's going to keep me patient in crypto. And again, when the bottom is found, we know everybody's going to be their most bearish and everybody's going to be calling for a number lower, and then the bottom will be hit. But again, it's just the Nasdaq. That Nasdaq is not beat up. The daily's not oversold. Just a couple months ago, the daily RSI got down to 23. And here we are at 32. So there's nothing saying we can't drop for another 2 days in the Nasdaq. I'm not saying we will. I'm just saying that I am preparing for that to be a possibility that's on the table. Looks like this hourly volume on Bitcoin is going to be the highest candle as far as Coinbase is concerned. So some traders using that as a part of their strategy in terms of looking for volume climaxes to help pinpoint some bottoms. We had a little 15-minute climax, but that was not the low. Just a little bear flag that confirmed. I just looked at the miners real quick. Again, they're in complete free fall. They are in downtrends on every single time frame. They're weaker than crypto. MARA is down 18% today. The biotech sector is down 8%. It's an entire sector in the S&P 500. CPI data is Wednesday. Good heads up. So Wednesday pre-market, we're going to see volatility in markets, crypto included, due to consumer price index, CPI, inflation numbers. So we will find a temporary bottom. Maybe the temporary bottom will be when the broader market closes and the bulls can get some relief. But again, because of the size of this bounce, we will be scouting hourly lower highs. And then we have to change trends one at a time. So I don't want to scare everybody and this is the end of the world. Again, it's just the kind of thing that we have to prepare for every possible scenario. And we have to constantly be telling ourselves it can go lower than we think. And we have to be using the Nasdaq as our compass, really. So 28.8 key support. And again, in times like this, if you are stressing out, it's always nice to go outside. My favorite thing to do is to be among traders and everybody, oh my God, what's going on? Just this fervor of attention and energy. And then you go outside and absolutely nothing has changed. The birds are the exact same as yesterday. Nothing's different out there. And that puts things into perspective for me. Like, oh yeah, none of those flashing numbers matter at all with anything to do in the universe. All right, we're going to wrap it up here with a quickie. I got to get back to the chat room as we are still weak and hitting fresh lows in the broader market. Again, stay protective, stay cautious. You can have a game plan for a bounce, but just prepare for unlikely scenarios. Got to put that seatbelt on, even if you aren't planning on crashing the car this time around. All right, I appreciate you all. Thanks for the likes. We'll check back in shortly. We'll check back in Wednesday when we get that CPI reaction. We will see short-term bounces before then, but lots of work to do for the bulls. RSI levels, less meaningful because of the Nasdaq correlation. Thanks again, everyone, and do some good things out there. That always helps too. If everybody in this chat room does one good thing today, I bet Bitcoin bounces.